I don't usually do these "At our annual event, here is thematic game" videos. I don't like shoehorning them in or limiting my choices, and this has absolutely nothing to do with my atrocious planning skills. But even for me, the planets align once in a while, and I find myself playing a super spoopy game in the run up to Halloween. That game is the Charnel House Trilogy from developer Owl Cave. Since I enjoy psychological horror more than I do visceral horror, matching that with a point and click game seems like a perfect fit. Slower paced gameplay, a focus on storytelling, this could work out. Not that there's a total lack of visceral horror, but that happens much later and would spoil the story if I told you, so never mind. The game is split into 3 chapters: Inhale, Sepulchre, and Exhale. If you're unaware of what Sepulchre means, do yourself a favour and don't look it up until after you've played. Anyway, I'm going to introduce the chapters in chronological order like regular boring people do. Chapter 1 focuses on Alex Davenport preparing to visit a friend far away, and we're briefly introduced to our playable character for the second chapter, Dr. Harold Lang. They're both taking the midnight train, going anywhere. Or Nipa Womset, it might be going there instead. A long train ride for sure, but hopefully a quiet and relaxing one, free of unexpected nope, it's the other thing, conductor just snapped a bird's neck, everything is wrong forever. While chapter 2 tells the story of Dr. Lang, chapter 3 returns to Alex and shows what happens to her on the Anti-Crow Express. Spoilers, it gets weird. Being the beacon of intellectual fortitude that you so obviously are, you'll have noticed that was the vaguest description I've ever given a game's plot. That's because more than most games I cover, I feel this one is about the experience. The puzzles, for example, are hardly brain-breaking, and I doubt they're supposed to be. You want to find out what happens to Alex, what happens to Harold, and how the two experiences relate to one another. A previous version of this game only had the second chapter, which I find odd, as the first and second chapters were added to expand the second, but both of those focus on an entirely different character who says fuck a lot. But given the situation said character finds herself in, sometimes there are no better words to use. And yet all this works. Expansion is the key word here. Not on Harold's story, but an expansion on the situation, on the nature of the train these two have boarded, on the mythos you might say. I've seen this compared to Twin Peaks and Silent Hill. I think of it as Silent Hill minus the puzzles. In worse hands, this could have been a game where you wander from room to room until something happens, and mechanically it can be that, but never falls into full-on walking simulator mode. However, the game gives you enough visual and audio cues to make the process feel natural. There's a noise in the next compartment? Better check it out. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's a normal response. The story may be the obvious choice for discussion with a game like this, but I'd be negligent in my duties if I didn't talk about the interface. It's 2-button with pop-out inventory. Left click to do, right click to look. Little in the way of surprises. Many Adventure Game Studio games seem to have adopted this control scheme, or one very similar to it. To complete the set of AGS engine tropes, it's even got some art and voice acting from Ben Chandler, but that has yet to ever be a bad thing. Also, there's this glow up near the inventory bar when you get a new item. That's a useful feature. Also, the game lets you warp through exits without having to trudge all the way over there. Sure, you're basically teleporting, but that's not exactly unrealistic in this setting. I was a little disappointed by the item descriptions though. A few of them are surprisingly generic. I mean, it was literally 1 or 2 instances, but with this game more than most, you don't want to miss the chance to add some flavour text. And I'm not even sure how I feel about the conductor's Scottish accent.
2 passengers. Well, this is my lucky day.
It's not overt or particularly stereotypical, I'll give it that, and after the fantasy dwarf voices in Warcraft Adventures, I'll happily take this instead. It's going to turn out to be an actual Scottish guy, ain't it? That'd just be my luck. As well as an ably written plot, the characters need to be on point too. You'll have to forgive me for generalising Alex as a sweary person earlier. It's far from the extent of her character, but I wanted to make that joke too badly. In fact, she gets twice as much time as Harold, whose backstory isn't a complete mystery, but definitely leaves you with questions and theories. Much like the entire game, really. A big part of the plot delves into the characters' pasts. The start of Alex's story shows her natural habitat, whilst communicating the series of events that pushed her to take the spoopy train journey of doom in the first place. It might look like a young woman arsing around in her apartment, but this information is being set up for later. And some jibes at the game's media too, why not? I doubt many of us will need time to adjust to the interface or anything, so this part's only function is a character introduction, and as good a one as any. In the case of Harold, it feels like we know about as much as he does. You sort of end up waiting for the characters on the train to drop out of their nonchalant conversation and drop a piece of foreshadowing. I did like how the main characters might brush off the first few of these before acting as you'd hope normal people would act and saying, "This creepy, I'm out." Doesn't last long, but I didn't find the experience trope heavy. I appreciate that. that. There are several more characters, but I'm gonna leave it there, spoilers and all. Something to bear in mind is that you're not gonna get all the answers by completing this game. Most of it has you trying to catch up to the plot. You're playing from the character's perspective, aside from the occasional bit of weirdness that only you, the player, get to see. The train staff know things about the two passengers that they shouldn't, and they know things you don't. Things they can't or won't tell you that you have to see or figure out for yourself. I mean, the sequel hook at the end would be a bit pointless were there not some unfinished business to address. Unfortunately, the projected date of 2016 seems unlikely at this point. The game's publisher, Mastertronic, did a big nosedive of fail about 7 months after the game was released, and apparently this took some of Owl Cave's revenue with it, which sucks. I feel like I should have some longer words for this, but that's the long and short of it. It sucks. I think Owl Cave have proven they can do a horror point-and-click well, and I hope they get the chance to do another one, if only to answer some of the questions this game raised. Not that the game we have is devoid of answers, mind you. When I review a game, I usually record my first playthrough so I don't have to replay something I've already finished to get footage. Coincidentally, I didn't this time, and I'm kinda glad for that. There's benefit to playing this again with that foreknowledge, especially if you like your theories or your wild mass guessing. What's real? What's not? What is the nature of this extremely bizarre choo-choo? Why did these two end up here? What are these mysterious past events that the characters briefly allude to? I'm not doing this joke again. For a fairly short game, there's an experience that could potentially stick with you. It looks like the team still wants to make this game, and the CEO of Owl Cave, Olivia, could be found chatting to players in the Steam forums, talking about theories, helping them find achievements, stuff like that, which is both awesome and to me signifies a large degree of passion for the project. So 2016 might be out for a sequel, but I wouldn't write it off just yet. Personally, I very much want to get my hands on that game because the Charnel House Trilogy, while being on the short side, did show a lot of promise and left me feeling very much intrigued. It certainly never felt rushed or cut down, it felt as if it was as long as they wanted it to be. It's a different beast from my normal fare, but that just meant it grabbed me in a different way than usual. If you're looking for something different and you don't mind puzzles taking a backseat to plot, mystery and character interaction, your £4.79 could go to far worse places. And if you're still unsure, Owl Cave were awesome enough to provide a free demo. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to post questions on the Steam forums in the hopes of receiving funny and or cryptic answers.
This is a passenger train.
Is it?